Okay guys, so I'm sitting still at the moment, and I promised a good overview of this radio. Now there's still some things on this that I still haven't exactly figured out how to do. Working on that, but the list is getting shorter by the day. Let's go in here and we're going to select a new model.
Transmitter battery low.
That way I'm not messing with the
0 volt.
Limitless. Alright, basically when you go in here, this is where you would literally set up all your mixes. You've got your dual ESC, your four-wheel steering, your tanks if you're driving like armored, conditions, gyro, brake, steering. Okay, you can mix your, like if you're running a nitro, you can mix your brake in with your throttle. Okay, you don't have to run Y harnesses and all of that. You can do it very easily through the menus. And of course, your external voltage. The radio comes, each receiver comes with a set of probes. Like if you're running a externally powered servo for your crawlers, you hook those probes up to the battery at the plug.
Battery low. 4.0 volt.
You get your external battery voltage on that gauge, and it will call out your external battery. Your receiver battery, it'll call out the voltage. Your top speed, you can set it to mile per hour very easily. Okay. Dual rates, easily set. Just click on that, set your dual rate. Not a big deal. It's very, you got your sub trim, your trim settings, your endpoints, your throttle functions, your status, ABS, throttle idle status, brake return 50, so on and so forth. Pretty easy. Expo, same way. That's under your curves. You got your steering throttle. On your throttle, not only do you have forward, but you have your brake that you can set Expo on.
Transmitter battery
Okay,
low.
very nice.
4.0 volt.
The brake Expo helps a lot if you have a very light, like an on-road chassis that's really sensitive to braking, like say a Vortec. You can go in and set the Expo, and it actually helps ease the brakes on a lot better. Even if you set it up through the ESC, that helps a ton. Your multi, let's see, where was it in here? See, I have a problem trying to remember where things are in here because it has so many options. Like your tank mixes. Here's your tank mix screen. You got your left, right, forward, reverse, channel 1, channel 2. Okay, because it's a dual ESC setup typically, or a single with a gearbox. So you set up, basically you would trim it using the left, right, your forward and reverse, so on. Same thing with your dual ESC. You got your status, your mixing, and your trim. Basically, you can literally trigger one ESC on and off. Okay. So depending on what you're wanting to do, if you're not wanting to run the second ESC and the second motor, you can shut it off for whatever. I don't know why they do that, but it's there. Here's your four-wheel steering. You can set it to your mix or a switch. Okay, so where you can turn it on and off. Alright, so like if you're running an axial copper, a four-wheel steer, but you don't want the four-wheel steering active all the time, you set your trigger to one of the switches, and there you go. You can toggle it on and off very easily. Gyro mixing, you can do internal, external, doesn't really matter. Your base settings are where all your curves and your fail safes, your channel reverse, your trim points, and so on are at. Timers, lap timers and everything set up there. Overall, now, as far as the radio itself, overall, everything, you can set the tension on the wheel by adjusting that screw. You can set the throttle tension by adjusting the little silver screw right up there at the very top. Okay. You can take the front section of the trigger off if you choose. That way you don't have to try to squeeze your finger in there, but for rapid changes in throttle and brake and not having to move your finger to behind the trigger to do it, it's a lot better. You can adjust the gap on that a little bit if you have a bigger finger. Loosen the screw, move it out a little bit, tighten it back down. Basically between this and a FlySky Noble, function wise, as far as the internal functions, the firmware functions of the radio, it's not that much different. Okay. It has, this thing will remember 30 models, 30 different receivers. You have, if you run it off of a LiPo battery like I do, USB-C to charge, and you have a headphone jack. So if you are hearing impaired or don't want the noise disturbing others driving near you, plug in your headphone, you can hear. Also, any firmware upgrades are done through that port. Now, when you upgrade the firmware to the transmitter, it also flashes the receiver firmware. So you have to have this hooked up to a laptop to do both the transmitter and the receiver. You also have to have the car powered for that receiver. Okay. Basically, all these switches on here you can set to do what you need them to do. Okay. Pretty easy. Not difficult to do at all. And apparently I have knocked a knob off of this thing somewhere. It's alright. I got another. I think I got one that'll fit it at home. All in all, it is a very, very good radio. Especially for $150. Budget-wise, this is a budget radio. But I have tested this the range on this out to 1,980 feet, body off of an Arrma, full carbon fiber Arrma Limitless, and 1,880 feet with the body on and the antenna inside of the body, not up through the body like I would normally run. So just putting the antenna inside the body at maximum range, it lost 100 feet. It works perfectly right out to the edge of the range. Okay, you have steering, you have throttle all the way out. There's literally no change to its reaction. It's just once it hits that range, it's done. So signal strength is actually pretty good. Latency, lag, is this a racing radio? No. Okay. Not quite a racing radio. I would put it on par with a FlySky. It is not an RG6 or an RG8. It is definitely not a Futaba. Okay. The antenna on it, 1,880 feet with this little dinky antenna up. Okay, that's it. Now, originally when I got this radio, I told the story in another video. This is the second one. They had to replace it under warranty. The screen calibration was messed up. And if you go in, you can calibrate everything but the screen on this radio. And I have suggested to WFly they add a screen calibration function in the menu. I don't know if they'll do that in a future firmware update. I hope they do. This one works flawlessly. Would I recommend this radio to anybody? Yeah, I would. It's a good radio. Is it the top of the line? No. But for speed runs and for bashing, do you need a Futaba? The answer is no. Okay. It's got good latency. Is it the best latency? No. Is it the worst? Not by far. Okay. So for 150, 170 bucks, it's a good radio. I'm actually really pleased with it. I did not expect that kind of a range out of this radio. I thought I was going to have to put a booster on it. So I tested it. It's not going to need a booster. As long as when I use it for speed runs, the battery's at full charge, which when I tested the range, it was actually needing a charge. It was at 3.8 volts. So, and I purposely did that at a lower rating just to see if it affected it. It doesn't. Full charge to 3.8, you're not going to see any difference in range. And when it runs off of a 1S LiPo, and the one I bought for this is right there. It's a 4000 mAh GN3 Flight. Okay, it's a Geoking. Got it off of Amazon. It was like 12 bucks. Okay. Now, what it comes with is you have a removable 4 AA battery tray that goes in there and plugs in the same way. So it's really easy to switch it out. You just unplug the tray, plug in the LiPo. Now the 4000, just at a quick search, was the biggest I could find. I'd like to see, I'm looking for something a little bigger, because I do have to charge this probably about every 2 or 3 uses. Like it's been used a couple of times now. It'll have to go back on the charger before the next time. It doesn't pull any current. Shut off. Zero. None. This thing, I used it 4 days ago, and it was at 4 volts when I put it up, but you saw it, it's still at 4 volts now. So when it's off, it is off. Memory, you go in here, let's see, I forgot how many. I think it's 30. No, more than 30. It has a 40 model memory. Okay, 40 model memory. That is better than the FlySky GT5, which has a 20. And I think the Noble is comparable. Now the Noble will run you about $250 brand new. The only difference between that and the Noble is the Noble you can move the steering wheel one side to the other or to the front, whatever. This one doesn't have that function. It doesn't have that option. You're pretty much, I think you could flip it one side to the other, maybe, but you would lose your access to the charging port. So I mean, it looks like it's the same mounting on either side, but I wouldn't flip it. I would leave it as it is. Unless you can flip the charging port one side to the other. I haven't opened this radio up to look at that. But mounting wise, it looks like it's the same mounting on either side. It's the same screw pattern, and it just screws to, well, no, it's not. It is different. This side panel is notched for the wheel where the other side is not. So no, you cannot flip it from one side to the other. So yeah, that's where you're at. I also noticed that right up here, there looks like there is a plug right underneath the plastic to put a different antenna on it. Makes me wonder if it's already set up to be wired to a booster. I have to ask them on that one. Anyway, really good radio. Really good. You know, is it a high quality radio? As far as the plastic, you know, it's pretty durable. I mean, I have dropped it a couple of times, and I thought, oh crap, I just ruined it. It's fine. You know, like I said, it looks like I knocked the knob off. I think there was an extra one in the box just in case something like that happened. So I'll have to check when I get home. Not a big deal. But even so, it's a trim knob, but function-wise, is it going to affect it? No, because you can adjust the trim through the menus as well. Pretty easy. Anyway, guys, that is the X9. And like I said, it is a decent radio. If you're on a budget, don't want to pay Noble money for a FlySky Noble, this is your best option, literally. This blows a GT7 out of the water. It definitely blows the GT5 and GT3 out of the water. The latency on it is good enough for RC drift. It is definitely good enough for speed run. Drag racing, probably not. The latency would affect your reaction times, where the Futaba is almost instant. But yeah, anybody else for a basher radio or a crawler radio or a speed run radio, RC drift, armored tank, armored vehicles, scale armored vehicles, yeah, this works. Okay, your turret, basically you'd set it up to one of the switches, and you would then use the wheel for your turret, which means you do temporarily lose steering, but I think it's the same on the regular tank radios. To run the turret, you have to select it, and then while it's selected, you lose one of your other functions. But it does the proportional steering and everything like that for both. It would do it for the turret as well as the regular steering. So, and of course the multi ESC. Running twin motor speedrun cars, no Y harness is needed. You don't have a master slave; they just both have to be on, because the radio handles everything. Okay, through the receiver. There is no master slave. You turn on channel 2, channel 3, just turn everything on in channel order, and there you go. I'm not even sure you'd have to turn it on in channel order. As long as the radio sees that it's on, you're going to have your channel mix. It does away with all that need of all of that. So, I don't see, when I can get a radio like this that does all this, why am I going to go spend $600 on a Futaba when there's not a need to? Anyway, guys, have a good one. That is the review for the WFly X9S. Promise, say hello to Hachi. And y'all have a good one.